this is amazing. I was clash heads again. This is like Chad Moskin and Cam Water.
For the first time here for season 3. Davis on pole, Vandergren in second. It's going to be sprint round action here tonight. Let's go racing here at Daytona. It was a good start there from Davis in comparison to Vandergren in behind. Cowan's absolutely bogged it up and already dropped out of the top 3 here as they come down towards turn 1 for the first time. There's biffing and barging between Gallen and Cowan. These guys are still going at it after last season. They survived for this time by though. Through turn 2 and 3 they come. Nice and clean, boys. Keep it up as they come up to...
I love riding. It's a real social thing. There's a great bond between riders.
Every weekend I look forward to getting out there. It's a freedom like no other.
Riding to work is a great way to start the day.
Shannons insure all types of road bikes, not just classics. They offer features riders really want. It's why they're one of Australia's leading motorcycle insurance providers.
Whatever you ride, whatever you ride,
Whatever you ride,
ride with Shannons.
Call 134646 for a quote.
Through turn 1, it was a horrible start from De Bono, who's absolutely bogged it up and gets eaten alive by Dixon and Gowans as they come on through. Through turn 1 they come, and they all spread out around in towards the first sector of the Silverstone circuit. They look all right at the moment. Okay, there's already been a car spun round. That's Jordan Ferguson offline.
Is green at Road Atlanta here as well. Faulkner did get away. De Bono is tucked in as well. Unfortunately, Houghton is on that outside line. De Bono does want to turn it to twos. He's got the job. De Bono's overtaken. Now can he get Ben Faulkner up through turns for 2 and 3? They go round the right-hander, dropping down the hill. Faulkner's out in front. De Bono second. Houghton third. Ratcliffe in fourth. No real dramas going into turn 1.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannons,
We've also got Shannon's home and contents cover.
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be.
Shannon's.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 134646 for a quote.
amazing. I was clash heads again. This is like Chad Moskin and Cam Waters. Almost the same situation. Better contact going down to the hill. Sam Noble wants to slip on Dave Coleman now. Sam Noble bottle right now because, tell you what, Bruce Tanak and Jamie Dyke just absolutely drove away from us. Hayden trying to go around the outside. This is where he could have just sent it up the inside, but he hasn't implemented it, which is fair enough. It's very scary out there, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's see if we get the good line. Dodds just absolute thinker, but it is a really nice move. Blake Delaney had to move out of the way.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Sim Racing World TV, and welcome in to our second attempt at doing the Cooler Masters Super Formula Championship Round 1 for Season 3 here of 2024 out at the Hungaroring, not only for round number 1 of Season 3, but also for our next round of the F1 Shadow Series. I'm commentator here tonight, Hamish Munro, joined once again after a little while between drinks, Jack Anderson. Jack, you had the opportunity to race in this race on Wednesday night whilst I was having an absolute just heartbreak dealing with absolute seizures on screen. How was it though from in the cockpit, and how do you think the rest of these drivers are going to go here tonight in terms of trying to traverse quite a difficult and technical track that can really lend itself well to some chaos?
Oh, it's always good to be here, Hamish. It's been a little bit longer than a little bit between drinks though, mate. I'm pretty parched. These, yeah, you're going to get those all night, buddy. Yeah, these cars are actually really good to drive. Like, probably one of my favourites on the platform at the moment, to be honest.
Well, I've mentioned it before with Cowie that these cars compared to the old F3, they're good at the low end in terms of bringing the bottom of the field closer to the top end of town, but it's harder for the top end of town to find those minor amount of pace to really get an advantage over the rest of the field.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, with the fixed setup always gives a little bit of reprieve for blokes like me who don't really practice, let's be honest. I've never actually driven this track on iRacing before, besides giving it a go in a V8 supercar for like 2 laps, and never touching it ever since it released. So it was actually quite a good challenge for me.
Yeah, I found it was one of those tracks that playing the old F1 games, you find out Hungary's up next, and I almost felt, oh, really, Hungary? It feels a bit boring, but used to actually be quite successful when racing at this track. There's something about it, but I mean, you look at it, and it's kind of, it is a track that you forget about, but it does create some absolutely phenomenal racing and some phenomenal moments. I mean, namely Oscar Piastri taking his very first Formula 1 victory this season, and last season Esteban Ocon taking his very first F1 victory. So 2 years in a row we've crowned a new race winner at this track in real life. We'll see if we can do that again here tonight for the Super Formulas as we go racing for round 1.
No, 100%. You stole the words right out of my mouth. So.
Well, we've excuse me, we've already got yourself in the chat, Jack, but also Hutto as well. Great to have you out there, Hutto, watching the action with us. Again, hopefully this continues to be this clean and this stable. It was pretty stable last night for supercars, even with me sharing my screen. So it is good hopes and sights towards the future, especially for this series, especially for this track. We know it's a track that can draw a lot from someone who is trying to broadcast it. So hopefully we can keep it nice and clean here tonight for the replay session. Cars are going to get out on the track though. We're going to get into qualifying now for our first race for tonight. It's sprint round action, of course, heat race, 20 minutes, and then a 40-minute feature at the end of it. From a driver's perspective, Jack Oz, how do you feel about the sprint round format comparatively to a normal round where you're racing for 60 minutes in these cars? Where with the sprint, it's a 20, you get the break, and then you get the 40-minute afterwards.
I quite enjoy the sprint round. The 60-minute race, it's good, but it's also very long, especially if you stuff up or in an accident. It's a very long race to try and catch back up, so that's why I find the sprint rounds good. If you have an incident in the first race, you've got another chance to sort of test it out and catch back up.
Well, not just catch back up though, but as well, if you say maybe you're on the bubble of the top 10, say you start P15, if you can survive for the first 20 minutes and make up a couple of spots, you could find yourself in P10 by the end of it, and all of a sudden you're at the front of the grid for race number 2 and on for some big gains for some points over some of your competitors who may have just missed out on that opportunity themselves. Obviously some drivers out there who may have been practicing all week might have a different mindset to some drivers who rock up on the race night and have a crack. But I guess, is it like the first 20 minutes, if you are on that bubble, are you just trying to push for the back end of that top 10 to maximise the reverse grid, or is it more or less just about survival, then look at the longer race where you have more opportunities to make passes?
Personally, for me, the reverse, if I started on pole, I would be crapping my dads. So, not really for me, but I know from other people like Sheafy, I know that he doesn't mind finishing in the lower of the 10 for the first race to strategically put him in for a better spot for race 2.
Well, we also know by him as well that he also likes to then brag about the fact that he has a pole position on the board if that happens.
100%.
Even though he hasn't put the qualifying time in for pole. Now, obviously, we actually had a clean broadcast for the qualifying session on Wednesday. Cannot possibly remember who had pole, but I do know that Danny Davidson, who's currently on a purple sector, did do quite well in that qualifying. So we'll be interested to see how this pans out and get reminded just by who was actually quick around this track, especially in qualifying trim compared to the race trim. We mentioned it. This is a track that can cause chaos. Turn 1, you can always have a pile up lap 1 or even on lap 2. And then also up at around about turn 5 as you come up the fast left at the top of the hill, where if you run it out that little bit too wide, you can catch some curb or some AstroTurf that then all of a sudden spits you around and you end up in the wall on the left-hand side, similarly to turn 5 at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, a couple of years ago in the real-life F1s, you saw, I think it was Valtteri Bottas go for a bowling session so into turn 1, so it's definitely one of the action-packed corners around here. Funnily enough, I can't remember anything about this. Like, I was racing, cannot remember.
Well, I think it also, I think one of the benefits of how poor it was for me is I didn't really actually see much of what happened, so I am still going into this race with fresh eyes. I don't remember who had the ultimate pace, who had the ultimate advantage during the race, and it is almost like a hard reset, really. I mean, I got no idea what happened in race 2. I didn't see race 2, and race 1, I probably only saw about 2 minutes across the whole 20 minutes of action. But I mean, it's an interesting track, and it's a track that can, it can divide drivers of how they feel about it. I mean, it's pretty technical. You don't really get much reprieve other than really down the main straight. So you're almost on it every single lap, and I feel like if you were doing a 60-minute race around here compared to the sprint format, then that could actually test the drivers a little bit more just by having the endurance to keep cutting lap after lap and not getting caught up in the moment.
Yeah, you would. I know that Ash definitely wouldn't like this place because there's not enough time down the straight to take a sip. But no, it's definitely a very technical track compared to a lot of the places I have driven in this. This would have to be up there. So it's very fun though, despite being technical.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a poor technical track. I mean, it's not like a Monaco or even a Singapore with how diverse they are of the field's opinions on it. It at least has got its little hidden gems. I'm sorry. It's little hidden gems about this place. I mean, you can get into some really, really good wheel-to-wheel action around here and some great battles as well. And I think that's one thing that is about this track is you have got passing opportunities, you have got the opportunity to have those great battles, and as you are battling, it does condense the field down, which is really good because then it drags more drivers into the battles, but it can also create a little bit more chaos, which may not be good from a driver's perspective, but it's great from a commentator's perspective.
Certainly. I'm sure I did not say 100%, but I have to agree with you. Yeah, it's just I've thrown myself off.
Well, no, you know what? It's it's better to pass the test with flying colours and get all 100% than to necessarily get some poor reviews. I guess it's a tough job, and this is a tough track to really figure out the little idiosyncrasies of the circuit and those little tweaks that you can make to the car, or they're being fixed set up. You can't really make many, but the little tweaks you can make to your driving style as well and how you approach the track. But as we get into 6.5 minutes into this session, Daniel Byrne currently sits provisional pole position with a 134.256. He's got Jay Dixon in behind with a 134.263, and then Danny Davidson P3 at the moment with that 134.342. So the times are super tight. They're super close across the whole field. Everyone is separated by less than half a second all the way down to yourself, Jack Oz. You need to do a little bit better here in qualifying to try and break that gap down up towards Jamie Dyke.
Yeah, I know, but I don't even remember if I did any more laps, to be honest.
Well, you're on track at the moment, apparently. So we'll see if you can kind of shrink that gap up to now Kevin Wakefield, who's ahead of you. But you can see, though, Daniel Byrne, former champion, of course, defending Formula One Shadow Series champion as well. I mean, Jay Dixon's, of course, one of the favourites in the old F3. This is our first real taste of him in the Super Formula. Same for Phil Vella. Scotty Barton, he's been a former race winner as well. I mean, Dave Roberts, defending Super Formula champion, is back in P12 at the moment in qualifying. That just shows you how competitive this is. But he won that championship through consistency and just getting those consistent finishes week in and week out. And he was there in the end of it. How do I say newcomers this season? Oh, if we look at the list, who would be the newcomers? So John Cashin, Dylan Gray would be new to the Super Formula field, but he doesn't start the race. Martin Lipsky, I believe, yeah, Jamie Dyke's one of them, obviously.
Our newest driver. Maybe.
Oh, yep, Jason Depp.
He drove last season.
I don't recall Jason driving last season, so he is one of the newcomers. I think Thomas Donahoe is one of them as well. Who else would be on the list that would be new? I think Pete Ziedler has done some races previously. Gordon McCulloch, I know, has done GTD races. I don't believe he's done Super Formula races prior to possibly the F1 Shadow rounds between the season breaks. So quite a few little newcomers out there. We'll quickly just check some stats actually while we're here, because I know that Hutto sent them to me the other day. Didn't really get to use them to their full advantage. So if we think about at this point in time, I mean, this track here, where is it? Oh, now I've lost it. That's fine. I mean, at this point, like, we're looking at fuel strategy here tonight. Race length, of course, this first race should go for about 13 laps. Second race should go for about 26 laps. Knowing that the pit window is between about lap 10 lap 16, we shouldn't expect a pit stop in the first race. It's the second race that's really going to matter, but there's not that much fuel strategy involved. It's more or less your strategy around if you want to try and undercut other drivers, because this is a track that you can undercut at as long as you get into the clean air and you're not getting held up by the rest of the traffic in the battles. So we can see, though, 9.5 minutes into this session, Danny Davidson has now taken provisional pole position off of Daniel Byrne. Sits with a 134.181 at the front of the field right now. He has got 7 thousandths back to Daniel Byrne, then a further 7 thousandths back to Jay Dixon. And then David Gallo is 0.013. Scotty Bartonson's 0.062. So they are incredibly tight, incredibly close at the top end of town. Last time we were, what we've had at this track before, we've had 4 races and 4 different winners. 4 different winners we've had here, of course. Adrian Loretti, who actually holds the lap record with a 136.106. That has been absolutely smashed already here in qualifying. Former winner as well, Michael Cuttajar. There are only 2 former winners on track, those being Jay Dixon and Phil Vella. And with 2 races on the line tonight, there is the possibility to make it 6 from 6 different race winners, or we could be 5 from 6 if someone does the double. So, Jack Oz, from a driver's perspective, you get closer and closer to that race starter course during qualifying. Maybe you don't feel like you're gaining some pace. If you're going to stop your qualifying before the 15 minutes is up, what are you using that time for? Are you using it just to prepare yourself for that race start? Maybe going for a little loo break, maybe make sure you got a drink on hand. I mean, what kind of goes through the mind of a driver, especially when they may be seated a bit further back in the field, ready for the start of the race? Is it mental preparation, get ready for what could occur down at turn 1 if someone decides to take a little bit too many liberties under brakes?
Yeah, you kind of just go over the scenarios that could play out. I personally get a little nervous at the start of the races, so I go and have a little pit stop before, just a little nervous wee, you know, always give it to myself, I don't know why. But yeah, always kind of go over scenarios of what happens, like what do I do if this happens, like what do I do if someone doesn't get a good start in front of me, do I go left, do I go right? What happens if there's a crash, what happens if there's a safety car, do I pit if, say for the second race, do I pit early, do I pit late, do I try and undercut or go overcut? All those sort of things just to play out in a mind, so you kind of get ready for it.
I suppose it's also situational, where you are in the race, where you are on the track, where you are in the grand scheme of things during that race. You know, thinking about, well, do I go for an overcut if I'm back in P, say 37 where you or 36 where you're currently seated in the standings, and you're getting caught up in behind some slower drivers that you know you were able to go consistently faster than across the laps? Do you then kind of decide, right, let's come in, have this undercut happen, let's get an earlier pit stop and get some clean air, and then push on with some free track around me? And then, you know, maybe if you're ahead of the battle pack and you know they're battling in behind you, you then maybe try and go for an overcut, maybe try and build the gap, hope that they come in early, go as long as you can, and then hope that you come out still ahead of them and able just to push on the fresher tyres.
I think you're better off going a bit longer, because if you go too early, you can also then come out in traffic that's a lot slower than you, and it will slow you up and lose you the effect that the undercut would have. We see, I think, during the F1 race, we saw someone come out behind Alonso and Ricardo, and so it took them a couple of laps to get by, and by the time they did that, they'd already lost their undercut advantage. So it's a bit of a tricky one, whether you do pit early and try and go for the undercut if you can get out into clear air, or if you stay out a bit longer and then try and pit a bit later to minimise the risk of getting stuck in traffic, but then you'll lose.
It's a real balancing act, isn't it? You know, knowing how long your pit stop is means how much time you're going to lose on track. How that can then also affect, alongside what your tyre wear is going to be, what your fuel usage is. All those things come together, and you almost feel like a mathematician trying to figure it all out, especially when you have to do it in the car on your own if you don't have a spotter.
Yeah, exactly. Like with these, like our races, I personally don't take tyres. I don't think any of our teammates do. I'm not sure whether there would be any benefit in taking the tyres in the 40-minute race. But if it was a 60-minute race, it might quite possibly be advantageous, and then you will obviously have to factor in the tyre life difference. So do you want better tyres at the end to be able to fend off or walk away from someone? Or do you want to use up the tyres at the beginning to either close or open the gap and then defend towards the end? So it's a bit of a teetering, a balancing act, as you said.
Yeah, and it almost feels like you're really on the ragged edge of strategic planning and strategic play, and you know, some drivers would have more advantage over others based on the fact that, you know, they may have put a little bit more time on track to know what the fuel usage is per lap, to know when their critical lap could be to get home, but also to maybe practice when is the best time they can get those moves done within the pits and get the most advantage out of their planning. But race number one's about to get underway. We'll get our starting grid up on screens for you now. Daniel Byrne will start on the front row of the grid in P number 1 for Carlins Motorsport. He'll start alongside Phil Vella for Downforce Racing, who's in P2 here tonight. Danny Davison and David Galley will then make up the second row of the grid, with Jay Dixon and Doug Gowans in behind them for the third. Scotty Barton, Marcus Knitska then on the fourth row of the grid here tonight, with Scott Pocock and Damien Cairns making up the top 10 on the road. Darren Fahey and Sam Katakazinos, the newly promoted pro driver, former Pro-Am champion, will start at a P11 and P12 in behind them. We then have Dave Roberts, our current pro champion, in P13, ahead of Matt Gerard in P14 here tonight. Thomas Donahoe, Jamie Davis then make up the top 16 cars, with Alan Dawson and Shane Ratcliffe alongside each other. It's then Matt Tessiero and Mitch Noble for an all-AM 10th row here. They'll start ahead of Benjamin Brook and Nathan Verney in behind them. Callum Rossonita and Jason Depp then make up the top 24 cars out there here tonight, with Dean Singovich and Andrew Rushworth making up the top 26, with Tony Baker, Tyler Sheaf, Timothy Schmalenberg, Greg Johnston making up the top 30 cars out there here in qualifying. We then have Keegan Caldwell, Jamie Dyke, Kevin Wakefield, Pete Ziedler, Russell Gander and Gordon McCulloch making up the top 36 cars in qualifying, with Kevin Wakefield, Pete Ziedler, Russell Gander, with Jack Anderson, Martin Lipsky, Josh King, Dylan Gray making up the top 40, with John Cash and just behind Adam Hughes, Stefan McCartan, Greg Leake, the race controllers out there, and I don't believe Dylan Gray is making the start of this race, as we will look to see who's going to get the jump down towards turn 1 and who is really going to be able to get an advantage off this start. So, Jackals, you haven't had pole position too many times in a league race scenario, but in an early race like this, 20 minutes, it's all about survival to get to the next one. What's the thought process here if you're on the front row of the grid, ready to go down towards turn 1, where you know there could be some carnage? You're just trying to get that good start off the line and maybe break away a little bit early and just hope that someone doesn't send it up the inside?
Yeah, exactly. You just basically, as silly as it sounds, you just try and send it, you drop the clutch against things, that's away we go.
Well, we're going to see if any of them are going to be able to survive down towards turn 1, as Daniel Byrne has had a cracking start there off the line, as did Phil Vella. He's already down up towards the top end of town as they come round turn 1 for the very first time, and there's already been a car spun round in the middle of the track, as drivers are just trying to traverse their way round at the moment, just trying to survive all the carnage here at turn 1 early on in this race. And I believe Doug Gowan's David Gallo were the cars involved in that early incident, and that's Doug Gowan's on his roof on the exit there. This could be an early safety car with Andrew Rushworth also on his air intake as well. So already some big carnage early on in this race, Jack Oz, and, well, only a couple of them have survived.
Yeah, it was a huge crash into turn 1. I don't think I've seen 2 cars flip into turn 1 before. And plenty of other cars like the leaders. I think I saw one of the Carlin. I call them the Carlin cars.
Oh, the
Coca-Cola cars.
Yeah, the Carlin's machines. It was David Gallo was involved, who started further up the field, but his teammate Daniel Byrne has managed to break away on the start and has managed to avoid some of the carnage. Who else did though? Well, that's Phil Vella and P2, who we know has got some good pace in this car. His teammate Jay Dixon did not get caught up in the early incident, so it appears that Gallo, Gowans and Rushworth were all involved in that early one, as well as Marcus Knitska, who's now trying to make his way up through the field. So is Tony Baker. So these guys have all had some big damage. Baker apparently running in the Formula Ford class here tonight with no rear wing on that car at the moment. So he'll hopefully come in and get that thing fixed up with a fast repair, as Daniel Byrne starts lap number 2, 1 minute 45 into the race. And I've probably already seen more action in this lap tonight than I did on Wednesday.
Yeah, that wasn't hard, would it? That wouldn't be hard, would it?
I don't think so, to be honest with you. As the safety car is out there, it has been called. So we'll at least have a couple of moments here of reprieve and a couple of moments for the drivers to get a fast repair happening, get their cars fixed up if they have to, and hopefully get back into contention here. So hopefully we don't get too many more of these safety cars. I think I predicted on Wednesday that we'd have, I think I predicted 4 with Cowie. I think he predicted 3. So we'll see if we're right. I don't know how many there were in race 2, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not going to play the game because I'll spoil it. So
that's why you deliberately get it wrong. That's the true mark of a hero. Someone who deliberately gets it wrong. Yeah, 99. We got 99 safety cars. So I mean, it was a good start there from Daniel Byrne. He did well to get off the line nice and cleanly. He didn't bog it down at all. It's unfortunate for David Gallo to get caught up so early on in an incident. As well as Doug Gowans and Andrew Rushworth. Those guys are now had to tow back to pits. I mean, Alan Dawson, we know he has some good pace. Shane Ratcliffe as well was involved in an early one. So I think this proves it's all going to be about survival and who can just make it to the checkered flag at this point. It may not be all-out pace that's really going to get someone the chocolates here tonight. I think it's all going to be about just being able to slowly unwrap what's in front of you instead of just shoving your hand in the favourites box.
I've never heard that before. But yeah, it's
That's what I like to bring. I like to bring the unexpected food references. You know this. You know that I'm all about that. As the drivers have now caught the back of the train, and they all got held up a little bit. Tony Baker making the mistake to not come in and get that car fixed. I wonder if he knows he's missing a rear wing, because he may struggle out there if he does not come in, and he may automatically rotate as soon as he gets back up to speed.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing a lot of the fast blokes that were involved in the accident in turn 1, trying to make their way through the field.
Well, namely David Gallo. We know that he's got the pace, and whether he's got the patience will be answered or not. Safety car is pulled into pit lane, so we are going to get ready to go racing once again here at the Hungaroring. We were only under safety car for 1 lap, and Daniel Byrne is going to control the field. We'll see if he holds them all the way up to the line or whether he's going to go nice and early. So he comes around the final corner, still holding them at this stage. We'll see when he goes. And he's gone now right on the start-finish line ahead of Phil Vella. Does well to fend the inside as Vella follows him as well, trying to hold off the fast-approaching Danny Davison, who is making his series debut here tonight. There is a move in the background from Mitch Noble on Thomas Donahoe. Great little move up the inside. And Mitch has really done well to improve his racecraft on iRacing and in these cars. Really struggled in his first season. And he's really starting to get back up to pace and really starting to try and drive as clean as possible. I know he's struggled with that in the past, but he's doing well here just to really solidify himself as one of the cleaner drivers in the field. As Pete Ziedler, he's up 13 spots now. Jack Oz, as is Jamie Dyke and yourself, you're up 12 twos. Sheafy's up 10. Verney and Noble are up 10 as well, as Wakefield's had a big spin round in the background, and I believe Schmalenberg was also involved. So there's already some cars off here. Rossinida's off too. So some drivers still getting caught out. Yeah, we've got the old Hot Wheels expression session going on here on lap 3. I hope they get paid by the tyre because they don't want to be burning them out too quickly. As Greg Johnson's starting to get eaten alive by the pack here in behind. He's got Ratcliffe right on him now up towards the final sector. We'll see if he can survive here for this on, as Daniel Byrne still leads the way around the final corner now and cannot shake Phil Vella off the back of him. He's all over him like a bed... I've already lost the word. Like a bed bug right now. That's what I was looking for. As in fact, Vella has just set the fastest lap of the race last time by. He's got a 1:36.50. 100th of a second faster than Daniel Byrne on the previous lap by. Danny Davison has let them go just a little bit here at the front of the field, as some of the mid-pack are still battling hard here as Scott Pocock's trying to make up the positions he's lost off the start. He's already down 4 at the moment. He's got the big gainers ahead of him, Verney and Noble, who are up 10. So we saw those incidents at this corner last lap, Jack Oz. You know, if you're in the position of a following car and you see one of those spins start to happen where 2 cars have come together, what's kind of the split-second decision-making skills that are going on in the back of your head at that moment in time? Are you just trying to go for the inside line, maybe aim where you think the car's not going to end up? What do you think maybe is the most common thing that happens when you are in that moment and you're trying to stay out of the incident?
Yeah, you just got to kind of look at the way that the car is rolling. If it's rolling backwards, you know, definitely stay away from the rear of the car because it will roll into the path. If it's rolling to the outside of the track, then you go the inside, or if it's rolling to the inside of the track, you go around the outside. So then you just try and choose the safest option. That way, there's little to no chance of ruining your own race as well.
I think maybe even practicing the mindset or the thought process of, you know, if I'm coming up to a corner and there's an incident that's happened right in front of me, there's nothing wrong with, you know, just pulling the car up a little bit extra and taking that extra millisecond to really decide where you actually want to put the car. You know, you see a lot of drivers just kind of push on and try and pass the incident as quickly as possible instead of taking the extra second to brake a little bit harder, get the car pulled up, and then decide where you want to put it. Now, obviously, you've got to be careful of cars in behind you as well. So I'm not saying, you just stop on track and wait, but just,
Just aim thunder.
Yeah, aim for the smoke. That's the best thing you can do, just aim for the smoke. Because that's not where the cars are, it's where they've been. As Scott Pocock puts all sorts of pressure here on Nathan Verney into the chicane. Such a tough part of the circuit, really working out the arms and the shoulders of these drivers here tonight, these twists and turns of Hungary, as Tim Schmalenberg has had another incident in the background and he is missing that front wheel at the moment. This could be another early safety car here, Jack Oz, if race control deem him not to be in a safe position on track.
Yeah, it's missing almost all the wheels are hanging off that thing, so it must have been a huge crash.
Well, Greg Johnson's also been involved. He's slowly coming off the grass in the background, so everyone is going off at the moment at around turn 6, so a real struggle bug of a corner for these drivers. As well, two drivers who are not struggling are Phil Vella and Daniel Byrne at the front of the field. They have started to build that gap back to Danny Davison by 1.2 seconds at the moment. And he had the one-lap pace in qualifying, but he can't seem to put it together in the race, Jack Oz. Maybe just struggling with that consistent lap pace that these front runners have.
Sorry, what was the question? I was looking at the standings, and I've just noticed that Benjamin Brook is dropping down a lot.
He has too. In fact, he's actually dropped out. I think he may have disconnected, quite possibly, because he's not actually moving on track. What I was saying was, Vella and Byrne have actually managed to build quite a gap now over Davison here in the early going. About 1.5 seconds is the gap now from Byrne back to Davison. We know that Davison had the pace in qualifying on a one-lap basis. It seems, though, that he is struggling to have a consistent lap pace that these front two have, and it's not really able to keep up with them at the moment because he's not under pressure in terms of a battle. Dixon is not attacking him. He's just not really able to sit with him and stay in that tow.
Yeah, and the draft will definitely affect that as well, because he would be out of the draft range. So the other two would be able to kind of just eke away a little bit, being in the tow of each other. And obviously you don't want to push too hard and burn the tyres off too quickly either. So you might just be getting into a rhythm and slowly building.
Well, we'll see if he is a bit of a slow burn like a candle, as Vella and Byrne are still battling up ahead of him here for the lead of this race. If they do start having a bit of a tango, then he may decide to make this a triple threat affair as he starts to catch up to them. But again, if he is a slow burn, he needs to get a move on, because 20 minutes is going to fly by absolutely quickly. We're not in a 60-minute race or even the feature of 40 minutes. He needs to try and get up on them quickly here if he wants to try and make a move for the lead in the last 9 minutes of the race.
Oh, exactly. Especially with the safety car. If the safety car comes out, that's a good, 5-10 minutes almost gone because of how slow you're driving around the track. So definitely don't want to wait out too long. You want to have a go. It is still early doors though.
You've deliberately stolen my keys to that one there. As he must be listening to us though, because he has started to push a little bit now and start to bridge that gap. It's now down to a second up to the back of Phil Vella, so he is not too far off the back of them now. He will be in tow range down the straight. It's whether he can take advantage and kick the door down to make a passing opportunity for himself further up on the podium. But in saying that, it's sometimes not worth pushing too hard for 2 extra points, and you're already on the podium. It's not really worth risking losing the podium to gain 2 points on track. Sometimes it's better just to concede and just let him have it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to bin it and lose all your progress, but you definitely don't want to go out there and just have a stroll. So
I feel like that's a reference to the livery that he has on his car right now.
It may or may not.
I thought so.
But yeah, you definitely don't want to just plod around and lose time. You don't want to burn the tyres off either, but you can also you don't want to risk binning it, because if you bin it, then you get nothing.
That's right.
Whereas if you finish, say, in 3rd place would be a massive result, and then you can finish, you can get a bag of points, you can start in 7th for the next race, and that'll put you even better off for the
the feature, you have an extra 20 minutes of driving where you can make up those positions, so you have got a bit of extra time in your pocket to really pay it forward and try and get your car further up the field. Plus, you're starting ahead of these faster guys, so you're going to have the pressure from in behind to push you forward. So you're not really going to be in the chase as much. You're going to be in the leading pack of those faster drivers. But it also, I mean, we've got, 6 minutes left in this race. These guys are not really battling. They're willing to concede their positions at the moment. Danny's probably smart enough. He's not going to want to push too hard either. And remember as well, it's a sprint. You're trying to get to that checkered flag, of course, in first place if you can. But he may even know now he's not running that consistent lap pace that these guys are. I mean, Vella's just done a 34.0 in the tow on Byrne. Byrne's going to cover the inside line. But Davison is only lapping as quickly as Byrne is right now. So he's not actually gaining anything. He's only lost time over the last couple laps. Really needs to start getting those times down to the 34 deads if he hopes to put any sort of challenge in. As Vella comes round the outside of Byrne now down towards turn 3. He wants the inside line at the next corner. 2 wide through there. Nicely done from both of them. They're going to be 2 wide once again up towards turn 4. And whether they can hold this together. Oh, it's great racing respect from both of them as Vella dives it up the inside of turn 5. Great little move from the DFR car here as he is all over sitting in behind Daniel Byrne as he goes up the inside at the chicane. Gets the move done for the lead chains now. 5 minutes to go. And all of a sudden, Danny Davison has a reprieve. All of a sudden, he's back on the back of Daniel Byrne right now, and it's now a 3-way dance to the end, Jack, for the win of this race.
Yeah, I bet he must be licking his lips right now because he's going to have a chance of doing a Stephen Bradbury and let them both take each other out to come across the win.
Not just licking his lips, just pure salivating off the mouth of Danny Davison at the opportunity for a win. He just is. He is prepped and ready to pick up the crumbs that might get dropped from any little manoeuvres that could happen in any corners here tonight as they come around the final corner now. 4.5 minutes to go of this race. Phil Vella has been released from the back of Daniel Byrne. And he's just starting to run away with this thing at the moment as Davison looks for any opportunity he can. Anything that he can take advantage of on Daniel Byrne as his gap is now getting smaller and smaller between P2 and P3 on the road at the moment. And Davison, who has got some pace about him, he'll just be looking for an opportunity right now. I mean, Dixon, what must he be thinking? If these guys have it coming together, it could be a DFR 1-2. But he'll also be hoping that they don't take each other out because he doesn't want to have to get involved in it if they end up right in front of him on track.
No, exactly. You don't want to ever wish foul of your opponents either.
Don't lie. You've done it many a time. So have I.
Well, only when it's you, mate. Don't. No, you'd be excited because if they battle, they obviously bring themselves back to you, which pulls you into contention, and then you'd kind of hope that they don't come together because there is that chance of, oh no, they've crashed. Where do I go? They're going different ways. I don't want to get involved.
It's a bit hard to split the seas when you are going so quickly, and to try and do it at the last minute. It is quite a tough task. That could be on Jay Dixon's hands if it does happen. I'm consistently seeing Mitch Noble drop in and out on the timing tower right now, so he must be having a little bit of an internet issue for himself, but he is still sitting in P10 on the road. Could have pole position for the next race. He's up 10 spots at the moment. Another driver we haven't quite spoke about yet, as we have got 3 3/4 minutes left in this one, is Jamie Dyke, current defending Supercars champion for the Pro classifications before they got swifted away at the end of the season. Now it's an open championship. First time we've seen him in an open wheeler in SRW, I do believe. He's up 15 spots, so he's still got some pace, but really throwing himself in at the deep end, learning a completely different car type to what he's used to in the supercar.
No, exactly, and it's great to see people experimenting to do new car types and getting to grips with it. I love the little Jamie Dyke in a JD car. Love the initial, or the play on the initials there.
It's a great little subtle, tip of the cap from Dyke as he's trying to chase down Pete Ziedler, whose livery almost resembles baked beans to me looking at it from this angle. Just the pattern on that car, I don't know what it is about it. I don't know. I can't really quite get close enough to see it. Apart from maybe going on board with him. It is. It's pigs. That's right. It's a whole bunch of pigs Well, you know, ironically, I was going to say it looks like spam, so not too far off that. That's
pretty accurate.
He's pretty accurate, to be fair. So, but he'll be spamming that throttle pedal now, just trying to run away from Jamie Duck. They've got Tyler Sheaf in behind them. He'll be trying to continue making his big gains. He's up 9 positions in this race at the moment and into the top 20 cars on the road. 1 minute 10 seconds left in this race. One more lap for Phil Vella to survive to the checkered flag and to take yet another win here at the Hungaroring. He'll be the first driver to take 2 wins at this circuit, and he'll be hoping to try and take another victory for this season as well as he comes around turn number 2. He's got some lap traffic ahead of him, but he's got plenty of gap back to Daniel Byrne at the moment, so no pressure for the leader right now. So has to try and drive this cool, calm, consistent race up to the end as Rosanita concedes and let the faster drivers through up at turn 4. That's one thing that I noticed, Jackals, has actually been quite contentious, is the blue flag rule recently. A lot of drivers have either been getting confused by it or getting caught out by it as well, and maybe just, you know, kind of not 100% understanding how they should best attack being under blue flags and letting drivers pass where they can. Something that we can really deep dive into in race 2, of course, but I think a lot of drivers maybe just need to take the time to read into the rules, read into how the blue flag rule is actually put into effect, and just, you know, chatting to other drivers, hey, if you're under blue flags, where do you let them go, and what's the best place I could possibly do it, especially around this sort of a track where you don't get that much reprieve. But one man who has not needed any blue flags here tonight is Phil Vella, who's been at the front of the field the whole time, took the lead with 5 minutes to go. He's going to come round the final corner now. He's going to cross the line in P1 on the road here tonight, ahead of Daniel Byrne and Danny Davison for the top 3 in race number 1. Jay Dixon's going to come home in P4, with Scotty Barton making up the top 5. As the rest of the drivers, though, coming home at the moment after that one, there'll still be some battles continuing on in the background. Sheafy wasn't quite close enough to getting past Jamie Dyke. Did manage to hold off Marcus Knitska, though. Russell Gander comes home P21. We've got Alan Dawson. Oh, look, Jackos, it's you right in behind him, up 14 spots into P23. That's a good game for race 1. We'll see if you can do any better in race number 2. Then Jason Depp finishes where he started in P24. Josh King in the background up 10 spots. He finishes in P29. So some big gainers all round in what was quite chaotic at the start, but quite cookie cutter towards the end.
Yeah, exactly. I want to personally apologise to David Gallo as well. I accidentally turned him around on the last lap, and I tried to redress the position, but there was a couple of people that went by, and so yeah, I apologise for spinning you around, mate. I definitely did not mean it. Of course you play the sus.
I had to. You admitted fault. It was called for.
Of course I'm going to admit fault. I didn't expect him to to go through he lets off and does a different thing than I did. Didn't expect it and tagged the rear of his car, so it's 100% my fault.
And that's one of the things in racing, you know, you've got to try and control the controllable, expect the unexpected, and, you know, when someone is running a slightly different, I don't want to say approach to a corner, we'll say, you got to be prepared for that and willing to just back it off if you have to in that moment. But it's one of those things in racing, and not everyone can do it consistently. I know you're pretty consistent with it. It's pretty rare that you actually get caught out by something like that. So, you know, it's just one of those things, and it's racing, and it's all's fair in love and racing at the end of the day. Some drivers are heading out of pits now to not do an expression session, but actually just get a bit of a warm-up for this track once again. Apparently 20 minutes was not enough for them to get warmed up to it.
What? Are you sure it's not an expression
Yeah,
session?
I was about to say Sam Catakazinos is just making me out to be a liar, apparently. He's come out smoking the absolute hell out of those rears of Lossy SimLabs car. So, he's got Scott Pocock with him. So these guys will be looking to continue their run forward and maybe get the most out of race 2 here tonight. I know, you know, some drivers have got different perspectives on warm-up sessions. Jackals, I know Scott Gamble, for example, doesn't really like going out on track during a warm-up. He'll normally use that time to reset his mind and just have a bit of a break from either qualifying or the first race. Are you one of the people that might head out on track and cut a couple of practice laps, or do you like to maybe just go get yourself a drink, use the facilities and get yourself mentally prepped for race 2?
It all depends on how I'm going on the night. If I think Austria, I wasn't going too great. I think it was the first time I've jumped in these cars, so I had to jump in and have another couple laps just to get my head around it. But normally, if I'm in a good mindset, I get up, go grab a drink, or go use the loo, or come back and just sit down and have a little chin wag with my teammates. But yeah, everyone's different, so.
Well, I know for certain that in Legends, you normally like to use that for the expression session that we have previously mentioned. Get a couple of burnouts going and burn some rubber just to, even sometimes that's good to do just to let off some steam from the race prior. Might not have gone your best way, but sometimes it's just fun to get out there and blow an engine in a car when you can do it for free in a warm-up.
Yeah, exactly. With the Legends, it's good because you can, there's no, you don't have to be professional in the Legends. Obviously, we want you to race and have fun racing. Don't take anyone out if you can avoid it. But in a warm-up, it doesn't count for anything, so you may as well just have some fun in it. But in these, Super Formula Lights and all the other series in SRW, obviously you want to take it seriously. You don't want to mess around like we do in the Legends. And you want to you don't want to disadvantage anyone else.
That's right. That's right. That's it. And I think, that's kind of the selling point for so many series in SRW and others as well, is that the majority of the league is, it's a very serious league. There are trophies on offer for 5 of the 6 championships that we run. And a lot of drivers, they're out there for, there's a mixture of drivers who are out there racing for sheep stations. There's others who race out there for the fun of racing and getting an opportunity to cut laps in cars that they enjoy. And then there's also those who they want to try and get to that sheep station level of, being super competitive every week. But they're also having fun doing that at the same time of, having the chase of trying to get further up the order, trying to get some pace out of the car, get some more experience out of the car as well.
Yeah, 100%. There's all these different people. I'm not exactly sure how many people are in the series, but how many members we have. But there is a lot of people, which would mean you've got plenty of people that want to be fully serious, plenty of people who want to have some fun and unwind. You'd have some people who, as you said, may not be that great, but they want to build, they want to learn and build themselves up to be fast, like the top blokes and women in the series. And
well, we've only got a couple of seconds left of this warm-up session. We'll then have our 40-minute feature race on offer for everyone at home. It was a chaotic start to race number 1, and this is the first time, Jack Oz, that SRW get to see race 2, any form of race 2. We didn't get race 2 on Wednesday night. We cut it off before this point, so we've gone further than what we did on Wednesday. Jordan Ferguson chat saying fun but serious. Hey, we love a fun but serious. It's seriously fun to do that. We'll use that terminology. But starting grid for race number 2 here tonight. It'll be a reverse top 10 of how they finished in race number 1. It'll be Daniel Byrne. Nope, it's not even going to show me it properly, actually. That's hilarious that it's done that for me. That's fine. We'll show our results for race 1 and we'll just explain how it's going to end up. So Phil Vella, Daniel Byrne, Danny Davison, they will start at the back end of the top 10. So how they finished in race number 1, the top 10 will get reversed. So Mitch Noble will start on pole ahead of Matt Gerard in P2 with Sam Catacasinos and Damien Cairns in behind, Darren Fahey, Scott Barton in behind them, with Jay Dixon, Danny Davison, Daniel Byrne, Phil Vella making up the top 10. Everyone else will start how they finished in race number 1. So another opportunity for more big gains for some drivers and to try and get their way further up the field than what they did in race number 1. As it'll be interesting to see how Mitchie Noble's going to do on the front row of the grid as an amateur here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. My replay is having the thing again.
This is fine. I will share my screen for you.
Thank you.
No worries. There we go.
I'm gonna also restart my replay myself while I do that.
Yep.
But I am watching your lives.
No worries. No worries. What I can do as well is I will send you a link that you can at least put in a browser, so you actually have some live timing info as well, whilst there's no overlays on screen as well.
How long do we have before the start?
To be about 30 seconds.
Okay. I might wait until a bit later to maybe touch on the blue flags that you brought up.
Yeah, we'll wait till there's a nice little break at some point in this. I mean, it's 40 minutes. I'm sure we'll get a safety car at some point where we can talk about it, because it is quite a contentious issue and it has really challenged a couple of drivers on field, and it's all learning experience at the end of the day. It's nothing that no one knows as soon as they get into a race car. So, yeah, we'll have a good opportunity to chat about that anyway. So, but Mitchy Noble will stay on the front row of the grid. He is going to get the first run down towards turn number 1. As long as he can keep it clean off the line here, he's going to have Matt Gerard, who has got some great pace about him, starting alongside, as Noble's still struggling with those blinking in and out issues. He's also got Katakazinos and Roberts, Katakazinos in behind, sorry, and I believe Damien Cairns as well, as most of the field is on the grid already. We're just waiting for Martin Lipsky at the moment to get on the grid and ready for race number 2. As we've actually gone longer than 30 seconds, so we could have quickly touched on it, but it lets us talk about it slightly longer, as lights are going to go up. And we're going to go racing for race number 2 here, as there is a car starting from pit lane, but it's going to be Gerard and Noble off the start line. A great start there from Mitch Noble as he leads them down towards turn number 1. But one of the big gainers early on here was Damien Cairns, who's done well to make it past Gerard, and he's now alongside Katakazinos down into turn 1, as drivers just try and survive here for turn number 1. We never made it past turn number 1 for some drivers last race. They look like they've kept it a little bit cleaner this time by, and they look to have at least survived one corner of this Hungaroring for the start of the race. As Noble now under massive amounts of pressure from Katakazinos. I spoke too soon. That's Jason Depp in the background into the wall already, as well as Dean Singovich, who spun it around in the background. They're lucky to not be too stranded at the moment. But front of the field, they still look pretty clean, but it's been a great start from Dixon, who's already made up some good amount of spots here off the start line, as Katakazinos has now given up second place to Damien Cairns, and he's under all sorts of pressure from Darren Fahey here at the moment, as there is a DFR double in behind the Velocity Simlabs car of Katakazinos at the moment. We have at least kept it relatively clean already here early doors in this second race, Jack Oz, as they look ahead to lap number 2.
It is very early doors, isn't it, Hamish?
Well, there's been an early doors incident in the background between Gordon McCulloch, and I believe you have also been involved. Where are you? You're spun round here.
That was all by myself.
A classic. As Mitch Noble spun around out of the lead of the race down at the second to last corner. I do apologise for us missing that one. We'll be sure to get this little moment happening on screen, because this is a big moment in this race and big implications for the lead of this race as well, as this was how it happened with Mitchy Noble. So he just ran a little bit too much pace there through the second to last corner, lucky not to lose any parts of the car, but he has now dropped out of the lead of this race with Damien Cairns taking it through the final corner. As we come across the line, starting lap number 2 now, I do believe. It says lap number 3, but the lap count is wrong, as Katakazinos covers the inside from Fahey. So we've had somewhat of a cleaner start, Jackos, in terms of the whole field hasn't been involved in a pile-up, but there have been some personal incidents happening with some drivers out there really just getting the moz on themselves and not really catching anyone else out on track.
Yeah, exactly, and it always happens. Some people might make a little bit of a mistake by just getting a little bit of throttle too early, and could just be like me and run out of talent, and then decide that I'll save the replay for you instead.
We've got to have talent to run out of it first.
That is very true.
Yep. So,
a bit more talent than Ferguson waking up on time.
as John Cashin is starting to fall down the field a bit further back at the moment, but he has not had an incident in that regard. A couple of drivers have been really stretching the track limits through the chicane. Pete Zeither was one of them to get an off-track through there. As Keegan Caldwell in behind him is all over the road at the moment. He's done well to survive so far. Don't really know. I was actually quite surprised that Keegan didn't really get involved in anything in race number 1. He did quite well to have a nice clean run. We'll see if he can follow that up in race 2. Although there has been an incident in the final corner, and it's involving Matthew Gerard, who spun it round. There is a car missing their front wing at the moment, as cars are all over the timing tower at the moment, as Gerard's just trying to get back going again as we start this next lap, as I believe Jamie Davis is the other one involved into the wall.
It also looked like maybe the Aston Martin front wing, so was that Davis involved as well?
Quite possibly it was. So that would be why. As I'm just going to do this to fix what's happened. So this was what happened to Jamie Davis. So he had already spun it round. This was him and doing the regular re-rotation of the car. I'm just trying to restart my recording of the event to try and fix some of the issues I'm having with the data as Gordon McCulloch came across the line. We'll be able to find the leader of the race. I believe it's not Martin Lipsky. I believe it's Damien Cairns, Sam Catakazinos. There we go. So hopefully this fixes itself when we... has now fixed itself. That's good. Ferguson blaming Stroll in the chat there. Just classic Lance things as we come through the chicane once again now. So Cairns is leading the way. It is not Alan Dawson in lead this race. It is still Damien Cairns. There's a bit of a problem with the timing, but it will fix itself when we start the next lap, of course. It's just the beauty of a replay file. It loves to play games with us and little dirty whispers at times, as we've got Fahey all over the back of Catakazinos now, trying to keep all sorts of pressure on him. And it's interesting that they're trying to put this pressure so early on in this race, Jackos. Maybe they just want to try and get past and use the next 30-odd minutes to try and build that gap instead of trying to get past and be patient.
Yeah, definitely. I reckon they must want to get past him and not get held up. Not saying that he's slow or anything, just one of those reverse grid things. You want to get past the cars that have a little bit less pace, so you don't get held up, and you can maybe build a gap just in case there's a safety car, have enough time to get in and do your pit stop a bit later and get out with quite a bit of an advantage.
I think this will be one of the reasons why they want to try and get past him, is because they want a wall between them and Scotty Barton and Daniel Byrne. They know how much pace they've got. But without Phil Vella ahead of them at the moment, the other two DFR boys don't have anyone to really contest these two quick drivers. Not saying, I mean, you know, Dixon's obviously got pace. He's a former winner at this track. Fahey's also got the pace as well. But Catakazinos and Cairns are not going to make it easy for him here throughout race number 2. These guys are tenacious competitors. Sam has been chasing that Pro-Am championship for quite a few seasons, and he finally got it last season, finally got rewarded for his efforts. He's not going to give it up any quickly without a fight, because he is now a pro and he is able to battle for this position. As we come down towards the final sector now, again, it's not really been that chaotic, this race, Jackals. It's been more similar to the end of race number 1, where we're back on the rhythm of how the drivers ended that race. They haven't really started it too hot. A couple of personal mistakes, of course. But they've actually been quite clean here off the start, as Gallo's trying to make his way back through the field, down 12 spots at the moment from where he started the first race. He's just trying to get back up the order towards the top end of town as he looks to line up a move here on Thomas Donahoe down towards turn number 1. Down the inside he comes now, in behind Caldwell, gets it past the Valve Sports driver, and now looks ahead to Keegan Caldwell and Tyler Sheaf right ahead of him here, but I don't think it's going to take Gallo too long to get this move done if he has anything to do about it, as Caldwell has locked it up ahead of him. So he's already feeling the pressure right now of trying to chase down Sheaf and hold off Gallo. And as I mentioned, it may not be long until Gallo gets this done.
I'm impressed with Keegan's pace in the Super Formula a lot, that must be said. I know that he struggles in a couple of cars, but it seems like he really gels really well with these cars.
I think it has benefited him since he's actually gotten that C-Class license now. He can race these in officials, so he's able to get more seat time in them, and that was one of the biggest, I suppose, detriments that I mentioned about him for a long time, was he wasn't able to get the seat time. As there's been a big incident in the background involving Mitch Noble and Greg Johnston down at the chicane. Both of them have had a bit of a journey off track. Not sure who may have been involved in that, but they look to push on once again. But yeah, I think that was one of the big improvements that I have mentioned about Keegan, is that he would have been able to get those improvements in the car once he could do officials and get more seat time. And it goes back to what I said earlier of this car's better than the F3 was on the lower level of dragging the field further and further closer to the top end of the field in terms of the pace and the willingness to push the car as Gallo gets it done down the inside at 1, but Keegan wants to try and fight it back. The ability to push the car and be more confident in it. And it's a bit harder at the top end as Keegan makes a mistake though down at turn 2. We're putting the moz on him here by talking about him. It's harder at the top end to find those minuscule amount of moments as he's had a big crash with Jamie Dyke. We must have spoken about him for too long, because unfortunately for Keegan Caldwell, that's a big moment and a big incident for him. And I'll be interested to see if he can get this thing back to pits. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. But I do agree with you. Keegan has really improved in this car and really improved in getting his racecraft up a little bit better. I think he's cracked under pressure there from the likes of Dyke and Ratcliffe.
It's easy to do as well. There are some absolutely mega, they have some absolute pace. I definitely would like to pile on the pressure of those blokes. So very easy to crack under pressure when you've got people like that behind you.
Well, Dyke unfortunately looks to be carrying some damage off that moment. He might be a bit dirty with himself now as he's been forced to let both Baker and Gander past him, as they now look further ahead up the road, as Daniel Byrne is now under pressure from Phil Vella here for the top 4 position on the road. Jordan in the chat saying bloke is mega quick in these in terms of Keegan Caldwell. And yeah, I think, Keegan, the more time he can put into these cars, the better he is going to get. I do stand by my statement that if he wanted to be quick in the GTP or consistent in the GTP, he should have gone down the pathways of the prototypes and the sports cars, of going from GT to LMP3 to LMP2 to GTP. But he's done well in these things, especially now that he can get laps in and actually has opportunities to race them in officials with other drivers, because this is quite a popular series and it does get quite a lot of drivers in the sessions in the officials, so there's always an opportunity on track to better yourself in these cars.
It's one of the things that we always talk about as well. We always used to joke about it and say, oh, you just need more seat time. But in actual fact, seat time is probably one of the best things that you can have in one of these cars.
It's absolute king. It is king in these things.
The more you drive it, the more comfortable the more you get in it, the more you know how far you can push it in this types of corners. Even if you've never been to the track before, the more that you drive it, say if you've driven it a ridiculous amount at other tracks and you go to a track for the first time, you know what it's going to handle like.
You know the nuances of it. You know the little secrets, little tricks of the trade to get the most out of it. And it's one thing that I've mentioned a little bit previously is pushing this car to its limit so you can deliberately make it spin in corners to find where the grip limit is, so you know how hard you can push and you know how much you can trail brake and you know how hard you can get there. Because the pace out of this thing, it's not found down the straights, it's found in the corners and how hard you can push through the corners and how much pace you can actually carry through those corners as well. As Vella's already looking at a move here on Byrne, but maybe just trying to fill in those mirrors and put some pressure on him now.
Yeah, that's not probably not normally a corner that you pass in, so...
No, it's not.
Definitely
So
might
very
try to catch
interesting.
Maybe make himself trip over, or trip over himself, make a mistake, and capitalize on it.
Very big possibility of that. He's on board with Vela now. We'll sit with him here for a little bit, see how he's going to tackle the rest of this lap and even on to the next lap as well, and just trying to, you know, bridge that gap, as we mentioned, down to Daniel Byrne up ahead of him. He is in the top 5 though, is Phil Vela, but if he can't get past Byrne, then he would be equal on round points, but he would still be winning the round ahead of him based on the fact that he has at least won a race here tonight. As they come around the final corner and look ahead to the next lap at the moment. So really just getting into our stride right now. Jack Oz back into the rhythm of things. We're not quite at the pit stop period just yet. Good opportunity to talk about blue flags, I think, and some of the struggles that some people have been having in terms of how they can approach dealing with blue flags and how they can approach actually letting drivers pass them. And I guess the main thing it comes down to is knowing what the ruling around blue flags is and actually knowing when is the best spot you can let someone pass under blue flags.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that I find the most interesting is you go into different series. Like SRW is good because everyone follows basically a single rule book with maybe like a couple of deviations. So you kind of know what to expect, no matter what series you're driving in your SRW. Whereas if you drive like another series in another category, like rather than Super Formula Lights or the Le Mans prototypes or hypercars or however you want to describe them, you say they might tell you to stick to your line, whereas another category might need you to move out of the way for them, and people get confused and don't know exactly when the best point to relinquish your position and let them through, or to like make it easy for them. We always go with the analogy of just make yourself super predictable, stay on the racing line, and the faster car will make it around you. It's best not to wipe off all your speed, especially if you're on the apex of the corner, to allow the faster car to go around you. You're better off doing it on a straight, even if you do get over the comms and say, I'm going to let you through, go on the left or go on the right, and then whether you communicate to do that and you move off the line or you stay on the line and tell them to go around you. There's a whole multitude of ways to do it, and you just got to be as safe as possible without ruining both your race and theirs.
Yeah, I guess like the mindset that I personally have, I know not everyone has the same mindset that I do when dealing with blue flags. I always think of it from a real world racing perspective of if I've got blue flags and someone's coming up who's faster behind me, I look at it as if they go for the overtake, I do not battle them for the position. I'm willing to let them go down the inside of a corner, for example, and I'll, you know, depending on where we are on track, I'll say to them, hey, take me down the inside, and I'll just brake slightly earlier and let them go, you know. I look, you know, the ruling in real life is if they go for the move, you cannot defend the move. You must let them have the position when you're under blue flags. And that's kind of my mindset, because I've found that if you are slowing yourself down to let someone pass on a straight, it's very similar to someone doing 85 and 100 km/h freeway. It can just bank up the whole field, and you find yourself not really moving forward whilst you're letting traffic pass, and it can really hurt your mindset and really hurt your ego on track. And it can actually do a lot more negatives than if you are, as you mentioned, being predictable, sticking to your line, and again thinking about, well, where are overtaking opportunities at this track? Overtaking opportunities, they are down the straight in the toe, they are into corners under brakes. These are going to be the easiest positions for people to come past me. I'll just make it slightly easier for them by braking slightly earlier and vocalizing, come down the right, come down the left, or again, just lifting off down a straight and letting them go if they've got the tow and they're already up alongside you pretty much. But yeah, I mean, let us know in the comments and in the chat what you think of blue flags, how you deal with blue flags. John Ferguson saying 3 demerits and a fine. But yeah, let us know how you deal with blue flags and stuff like that, and your mindset on blue flags as well. Some drivers have struggled with it in the past. We've given our 2 cents on how we personally deal with blue flags ourselves. I've never had any problems dealing with blue flags, how I've dealt with them. I don't think from memory you've ever had any problems dealing with how you deal with them, Jack Oz. So, and even ask other drivers, hey, how do you deal with blue flags? What's the best way I can do it? And sometimes it's even important just look at your relative and think, this person's a lot faster than me. They've caught me by about 2 seconds in the last 5 laps. Let's just make it easier for them and just concede the position if I have to, if you're not under blue flags. Because sometimes if you're trying to over-defend, you're overdriving the car, and you can be putting yourself at a detriment. Not just your opponent, but yourself as well. As we can see, though, at the front of the field, Darren Fahey, Scotty Barton are now leading the way. They've taken the top 2 positions, as we were talking about the blue flags previously, as Damien Cairns is dropping down the order. He's been spun round at turn number 5. I'm not sure if Marcus Knitska's been involved, but he had dropped a couple of positions previously too to Daniel Byrne and Phil Vella. But all of a sudden, Damien Cairns, his luck has just run out at this point, as he is now dropping further and further down the field as drivers start to stream on past him. He's already down to P19 at the moment, Jack Oz, and it's unfortunate for him. He was having a good, clean run in the first 17, 18 minutes of this race. He just got caught out there around about the halfway point.
Yeah, the short king corner strikes again.
It's really caught a lot of drivers out tonight, hasn't it?
It is. Well, it has. So it is a more difficult corner than you would expect. You would think, oh yeah, I can just power out, but it will bite you if you underestimate it.
Well, it goes from on camber to off camber pretty much at the apex, doesn't it? You're on camber on entry, and then all of a sudden you're off camber on exit. Leading the race at the moment is Darren Fahey, this man here of DFR. He's led the race for the last couple of laps, and now he's got Scotty Barton just in behind him with Daniel Byrne in P3 at the moment. Phil Vella, Marcus Knitska make up the top 5 with Jay Dixon, Dave Roberts, Sam Catacasinos, Scott Pocock and Matt Tessiero making up the top 10 at the moment. On the bubble, there is a race going on. Well, it's this is off the replay file, of course. We unfortunately couldn't get the best out of the live viewing on Wednesday night, so we decided to do it for the replay when we can get everything fixed up. But there is a race going on. We're halfway through that race, in fact, and it is Darren Fahey who is leading the way at the moment. And he's done well to get this pace back out of this car on the return into the series for DFR. It was a couple of seasons while those boys were away. It's good to have them back in the field and good to have them fighting for the lead and the championship once again. As Daniel Byrne is under pressure now from Phil Vella in behind him. Marcus Knitska is leading ahead of Jay Dixon and Dave Roberts as well. Jay has found himself in a pace syndicate sandwich between Knitska and last season's defending champion, or this season's defending champion I should say, Dave Roberts here inside the top 10. So some good battles occurring on track at the moment, as we're going to get into our pit stop period very, very soon here tonight. As Phil Vella's in the chat saying Cairns was contact, not a solo loss. Yeah, that did look like contact because of the fact that Knitska had dropped down a couple of positions off the exit of that corner, but that corner had actually caught some other drivers out, especially though as well. But it has caught someone out because they've taken Cairns out of the race at this point. As we should not be, as I mentioned, too far away from pit stops. So you mentioned you wouldn't take tyres, Jack Oz. Most of the field don't normally take tyres. It should be just be a little bit of splash of fuel. It looks like that everyone's trying to go as long as possible right now, maybe to have a lighter car for the final stint here tonight.
Yeah, well, as we see,
that's Damien
Cairns.
That's Mr. Cairns. Yep, so Accelerate Sim Racing's Damien Cairns. I don't know if he was deliberately coming into pits on this lap, but he had a spin round, so there is the undoing of Damien Cairns continuing in this race. Unfortunately for him, he'll get that pit stop done, but may have dropped too many positions at the moment as Sheafy's now defending against Donahoe and Benjamin Brook here for P13 on the road. But yeah, it looks like most of the field's going long here to have that lighter car to have a bit of a faster motor vehicle towards the end of this race.
Yeah, as we touched on earlier, you kind of don't want to pit too early because it can put you all the way back into the traffic. It might then slow you up. So it seems a lot of the people in this race kind of want to do that, so then they don't get, well, they're not scared of the undercut because you're not changing tyres as well. The only difference would be the amount of time you stop to refuel. So you may as well go longer, less chance of getting caught up in traffic and less risk, really.
Well, someone who has actually played that to perfection is Daniel Byrne, who's just come out of pit lane and has come out with clear track ahead of him at the moment as Pete Zeither and Matt Tesseriero battle a couple of seconds up the road from him. So he's actually come out in the prime position right now to push on for the next lap or so. Hope that those other guys stay out for an extra lap and maybe get a bit of a gain out of it. We come up through.
A bit of a spicy battle.
Yeah, there is. I think it's it was Zeidler trying to get past the lapped Greg Johnson. He's got that move done. I think Jamie Dykes had an incident in the background, but he is still rolling, but may have only been a bit of a half spin at turn one. The car looks neat and tidy at the moment. I'm looking at this these intervals at the moment, Jack Oz. Hungary's kind of striked again. Everyone's started to spread out right now. We haven't really got too many close battles apart from this one right now. And maybe that's coming down to the pit stop strategy of some of these drivers, but I think without a safety car here, everyone's just starting to break away and get into clean air right now.
Yeah, we do tend to see that a lot. It's basically everyone just gets into their own little rhythm and starts to eke out the little gaps. And there's no DRS trained in Super Formula Lights, which is good. It means that you don't basically just pull everyone else along. So that's it's just the way the cookie crumbles, mate.
Well, that's right, but it also means that because we're in the Super Formula Light, we don't have push to pass either, so we don't have the benefit of having the help of what would have used to been KERS in F1 to get the moves done. It's purely based on your pace and how willing you are to push for a move up ahead of you, as we are at 25 minutes into this second race now, 15 minutes to go. Lap 16 on the road. We expect majority of the field to come into the pits very, very shortly here tonight for their only pit stop of this race. Darren Fahey leads the way at the moment and he has remained on track. He has not come in for that pit stop just yet, so this is only helping Daniel Byrne at the moment, who's got clean track. He's got the fuel in his car to get to the end of this race, but at the moment these guys aren't battling, so it's not really holding them up at the moment. He really needs them to close up and start getting their battle on if he hopes to get an advantage with this undercut. See if we can find a nice close battle. We got Jamie Dyke battling with John Cashin a bit further back here. Fishy Motorsports and Veterans Gaming Australia. Cashin's actually just let him have the position, so it's not as much of a close battle as what we thought it was going to be. Gordon McCulloch and Alan Dawson are battling further back as well. So some nice little 1v1s happening here tonight throughout the field. As Dawson shoots up the inside and McCulloch gets the move done at the chicane. All of a sudden, that's two VGA cars have now lost a position in the span of only 2 corners. Here tonight as Jason Depp brings his car into pit lane for his scheduled stop in this race. He was in a bit of a battle with Matt Gerard before, but he's now had to release him and let him go. As we can see here, Dean Singovich and Tony Baker having themselves a nice little battle at this point in the race. So This is kind of... no, Jordan, we're not having that. Byrne had a drive-through. What? Did he? Oh, he must have. Where is he on track? Yeah, he did too. He did. Oh, yeah, he had a... Just noticed that on the lap timing, he had a drive-through. So that has actually taken him out of contention at the moment. As Scotty Barton has now brought his car into pit lane, Jackos, as well as Katakazinos. So the top end of town are doing their pit stops right now. Unfortunately for Daniel Byrne, he has had a drive-through and he looks to be out of this race.
Yeah, it's a shame to see. He was going really well. He looking the one of the 11 was.
That's Scott Barton.
He's done on Michael.
Mate, that's more than that's more than overshooting. He has missed the target. He's shot into a whole different shooting range on that one. He has overshot that by about
the wrong type of pit box.
Yeah, that's what he's gone for the Carlin's pit box instead of the Valve Esports one. That's the problem. Similar livery, similar race suits. He's very, very easy to get confused. Unfortunately for Scotty Barton, that may cost him here, as the likes of, who else came in with him there? That was, I can't find the name now. Oh no, he must have come in on his own. Oh well, disregard. But that's going to hurt him though in comparison to Fahey, Vela and Kanitska, because if these guys can slot it into the pit box nice and accurately, well, he's only going to lose time off the back of this. But he'll be absolutely spitting at himself for making such a mistake, as they're starting to get up to the lap traffic now of Dawson and others here at the back end of the field. As we can see, that was Phil Vella coming into the pit lane, Jackos. That was well spotted for DFR. Pocock and Gallo have actually followed him in as well. As well as Testierero. So we are right into pit stop territory now, as the drivers come down the main straightaway. Phil Vella, Scott Pocock, David Gallo, Matt Testierero all into the pit lane. So we'll see if this one pays off for them, Cotton. It's a bold strategy, but sometimes it takes a bold strategy to get the most out of it, as they've had Daniel Byrne and Dave Roberts come past them, but those guys do need a pit stop in this race. So Vela should still be corrected P2 on the road at the moment, and on for a DFR 1-2 right now, Jackos. So let me ask you this. Oh, that's fine. I was about to ask you this question of, we get to this point in the race, everyone's kind of spread out a little bit. You've got, about 10 minutes to go. What's kind of the mindset right now in the driver's seat? Is it run those consistent laps, just try and get it to the checkered flag and hope that someone maybe makes a mistake? Because no one's really close to each other in terms of having a battle on track. There's a couple of on-track battles, of course, but the whole field's kind of spread out now. Is it have to make it to the check and hope someone makes a mistake, gets in free positions here, or are you maybe trying to push ahead and maybe close that gap if it's maybe less than 2 seconds ahead of you?
You always check the gaps towards you, and then if you can see that you're slowly reeling in the bloke ahead or the woman ahead, then you get incentivized, and then you push a little bit harder, like just a little bit. Try not to bin it, obviously, and try and gain that extra position if you can. That's always in the back of your mind to try and get that extra spot.
Well, speaking of extra spots, Phil Vella has made it past Darren Fahey through the pit stop period here, so he has managed to undercut his teammate across that run there. We've got 11 minutes to go. Kanitska's come out in P3. His teammate Roberts, the defending champions, in P4. Scotty Barton in P5 now, with Dixon, Gallo, Katakazinos, Pocock and Byrne making up the top 10. Byrne has actually managed to get his pit stop done, and he hasn't actually lost too much time on these guys through that pit stop, Jackos. He is still in the top 10 and still on for some good points here.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to be able to see that he's been able to salvage something as he makes his way around a little bit on his game. I think that particular part did come under a bit of a discussion about the blue flags. What sparked it all for the Super Formula One?
I don't think it was that one. I think it was a very similar one, but it wasn't that one because I actually watched the video. there was contact when it happened. So, but it was at that corner. I do know it was at that corner. But again, I mean, it's good for us to discuss those rulings and those mindsets, because sometimes it's harder for drivers to learn without knowing or without actually hearing the perspective of other people who have raced on iRacing for a little while and have maybe gone through the trials and tribulations.
Yeah, exactly, and especially with the high downforce cars, I know that the mindset of some people might be, since they've got so much downforce, if I slow down on the apex, they can go around the outside, which is it's fair enough to think that, but at the same time, it may not be the safest place to do it.
Yeah, it's a valid thought process, but I mean, like turn 4 or turn 3, it's not really a passing opportunity. It's a corner that tightens on exit, and it's a fast-paced run. It's not really one that you can make the split-second decision once you've committed to your line to really change it mid-corner to go around someone. You kind of almost have to line it up before the actual corner and commit to it early on instead of changing your commitment halfway through.
Yeah, exactly right. I know that if I was in the same shoes, I probably would have drilled the back of the person trying to get the spot, so I wouldn't have expected it. That's just the way it is sometimes.
It's racing. It happens, you know. It's happened in almost any category of racing before, and drivers learn from it as well. Sheafy saying, "Look at me go." Yeah, Sheafy at the moment, he is in P2 at the moment for the Pro-Am class, and he's got Pete Ziegler ahead of him here, so he's on. Could be on for a class win if he can get it past him. Matt Teixeira currently leads for the amateurs right now, as Phil Vella leads the way for the whole field, as well as leading the pro field at the moment as well. As this battle, it is contested. It is within a second, Jack Oz, and Sheafy will be looking here to try and get a quality class win, his first class win in Pro-Ams since his promotion. And for someone who, you know, rallies to try and get put back in amateur, he's not really doing a very good job of it right now when he's on for possibly a class win if he can get past Pete here.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't deserve to be an amateur. I know that he keeps on telling us that he should be, but he's faster than me at most parts of the track. And,
well, he harps on more than a fisherman does, you know. He's
yeah, yeah, exactly. He definitely is where he belongs.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. He's it seems like he's trying to sell the snake oil of being an amateur, but it sounds like a pyramid scheme from where I am. He needs to be Pro-Am at this point, but which is good. Yeah, that's all it is. He wants the easy wins out there on track. But you know, those amateurs, they're not making it easy. In fact, he's losing to an amateur in Matt Teixeira, who made a claim at that Pro-Am classification last season, but wasn't quite there in the end. He's got Thomas Donahoe in behind him at the moment, as well as Ziegler and Sheaf. So this is the battle for the back end of the top 10, as well as for the Pro-Am honours for Ziegler and Sheaf in behind, as Teixeira has got Donahoe looking all over him right now, possibly trying to line him up for a move here in a couple laps time. As the top end of town looks like this, Phil Vella's got a nice healthy gap over Darren Fahey, who is playing Brigade Wall for him at the moment. He sits in P2 ahead of third place Marcus Knitska right now. Scotty Barton is in P4 on the road at the moment, with Dave Roberts making up the top 5 as they come through turn number 4. David Gallo is now up to P6 on the road as they're catching up to some lap traffic of Andrew Rushworth, I do believe it is, as they come through turn 5. Done well to traverse around that. I noticed that Matt Gerard had a crash before, or an incident before. Seems to be rolling again nice and cleanly, maybe just a half spin at one of the corners, but top end of town is still in for a good battle here as Sam Katakazinos is really on the end of this train. He's got a nice 13.5 second gap back to this battle with Teixeira and Donahoe that we were checking out before.
Yeah, and Matt's doing a really stellar job. Had a bucket load of pace all throughout the half, I should say, of the weekend.
Well,
But,
he's one of those drivers that you can make the argument that he could be Pro-Am. He's just been unlucky at times, getting caught up in either his own or other drivers' incidents across the season last season.
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of drivers that I've seen that are in, say, Pro-Am or Am, that you could argue their pace is just out of this world, but they just, either their racecraft isn't I don't want to say it's bad.
No, but
it's
not up to scratch.
Like,
we'll say it's not up to scratch.
Yeah.
You know,
it's not at a pro level, so you wouldn't put them in the pro category, which I get. But sometimes they just get to a track and they just switch on, like Matt has here, and showing some great pace all weekend. I went to say weekend.
you did. You know what? That's fine though. We're on the back end of the weekend as he's had a bit of a moment here with Thomas Donahoe. He's spun him round. He's trying to redress. Sheafy's trying to find his way through. Unfortunately for Matt there, and that's what it comes down to. But I've mentioned it time and time again. The reason these drivers are in their different classifications, it's not just down to their straight up pace. We mentioned amateurs. They either have, or we'll go from the pro end to the back end. So pros, they're the drivers who've got good pace and they've got really, really good racecraft. That's why they're a pro. Pro-Ams, they've got a good amount of racecraft and they've got a good amount of pace. They might have slightly one more than the other, whether it's more pace or more racecraft, meaning they're a bit more consistent. Amateurs, normally they've got a heap of pace, but they struggle with their racecraft, or they've got a heap of racecraft and they're super consistent, but they struggle with the pace sometimes, so they don't really find themselves at the front end of town, and they're at the back end of the field getting caught up in some big incidents that normally happen when you're, P20 or below. So it seeded itself out well. I mean, the classifications are pretty fair. They're pretty consistent. There are some outliers sometimes, depending on who gets caught up in incidents and who doesn't, but they're pretty spot on, I think, for a lot of drivers out there, and there's always going to be a couple of drivers who are in between the class they're in and the next class up, or the class they're in and the next class down. As Phil Vella, though, leads the way. We're in the final minute of this race. I don't know. I think he's actually going to make the line before the end of the minute, so we should have one more lap to go when he does meet the line here tonight. We've had no safety cars here in race number 2, so it is only going to be a one safety car affair here tonight. It happened within the first lap of race number 1. We haven't another one since the SRW Mercedes GT4 came out on track, as Phil Vella comes round the final couple of corners now. It's 20 seconds until the time is up. Actually, he may not make the line here before the 40 minutes. 10 seconds to go as he comes around the final corner. It's going to be tight here for Phil Vella, whether he's going to have to do an extra lap or not. He is going to have to do an extra lap as he passes the line. Starts lap 26 with 5 seconds to go. So white flag lap is now Jack Oz, and this has been dominant from Phil Vella. He's 4.4 seconds ahead of Darren Fahey, who's under immense pressure from right now by Marcus Knitska for P2 on the road, but Knitska's smart. He's not going to push this too hard if he doesn't have to, for 3 points like we mentioned previous. He'll be happy to take this P3 and a good chunk of points here tonight when they do cross with the checkered.
We've just got to send it.
I'm surprised you do not work for the Postal Service, Jack, as you love a licking of the stamp and sending.
They call me Danny Rick.
As the battle in behind for the Pro-Am lead is continuing on. Ben Brooks had a moment. Oh, no, he's not. Sheafy's just gotten a genuine overtake done on him. Down the inside at turn 1. He looks to chase down Pete Ziedler at the moment, but he's round the outside of Brook, battling it out for the to get inside the top 10. Sheafy can't quite get it done this time by. He'll be trying to do it later on in this lap. Ziedler's managed to build a big gap over Sheaf now. Sheaf has now lost P2 on the road in the Pro-Am class here tonight, as Brook has made his way past him here. He might need a little bit of magic about him to try and get this done. But Vella's going to come round the final couple of corners now here of the Hungaroring. And what a shame for Damien Cairns to be so far down the order, what could have been hit for him tonight. But Vella's going to come across the line. He's going to take victory here in race number 2 here tonight. It'll be a double for Phil Vella in a perfect round. Fahey will come home in P2. Knitska in P3. Roberts is going to come home in P4 for a good chunk of points with David Gallo in behind him. Jay Dixon will make up the top 6 cars on track with Katakazinos coming around the final corner now for P7 in this race. It'll then be Pete Ziebler, 26 positions up from where he started race number 1. He will come around the around the final corner, and he will take P1 on the road for the Pro-Ams here tonight, ahead of Daniel Byrne and Tyler Sheaf, making up the top 10. So, Phil Vella, one of 2 drivers who came in here tonight as a former winner at this track, and one of 4 drivers to have ever taken a win here. There's only ever been single winners prior to tonight. Not only was he the first to do a double, he's the first driver to get to 3 wins at this track, and he's done so by winning both the heat race and the feature here tonight, Jack Oz, and it was in dominant fashion, and he is looking like the championship favourite at the moment.
It definitely was a dominant performance by Vela tonight. And all the other boys at DFR must be proud of that effort.
Well, it was another 1-2 finish for them. I mean, it's their favourite spot on track is in P1 and P2.
You just hope that they didn't have the conversations that McLaren did over the weekend for the Formula Ones to see who finishes 1-2.
Well, I mean, I suppose maybe Fahey's thinking the fact that Vela has had better finishes in the F1 shadow rounds, maybe just letting him have it at this point. But we're in round 1. I mean, why would you let him have it? You know, why would you not try and battle him for it at this point? But we know that Vela's got pace. We know Fahey's got pace. Yeah, they played the team game and it worked out for them. They did not get a podium lockout, though, which they have previously done here. They are one of 2 teams to have ever taken a podium lockout in the Super Formula Championship or Formula 3 Nationals, as it was once known. As we wait to see if anyone is going to hop into the green room for a chat with us, what we will do is we will give them until the 1:15 mark to determine whether they are actually going to come and have a chat to us or not. But until then, we'll bring up our feature race results and we will run you through how they ended up here tonight. Phil Vella will finish in P1 on the road, ahead of Darren Fahey and Marcus Knitska here for the top 3, with Dave Roberts, David Gallo, Jay Dixon, Sam Katakazinos in the top 7 here tonight. Pete Ziebler will then take home the Pro-Am honours in P1 for them, in P8 on the road respectively, with Daniel Byrne and Tyler Sheaf making up the top 10 here tonight. Sheafy getting a P2 in the Pro-Ams, with Scott Pocock and Benjamin Brook in behind him. Brook getting the P3 on the road for the Pro-Ams here tonight, with Tony Baker in P13, and then the amateur podium of Russell Gann, Matt Tessera and Dean Sinkovich making up the top 16 cars on track here tonight, with Dougie Gowans and Nathan Verney in behind them, as well as Kevin Wakefield, Callum Ross-Anita making up the top 20, with Jamie Davis, Damien Cairns, Jason Depp, Alan Dawson and Scotty Barton making up the top 25 out on track, with Shane Ratcliffe, Andrew Rushworth for the top 27, Gordon McCulloch, Matthew Gerard, Greg Johnson, Martin Lipsky, Thomas Donahoe, John Cash and Mitch Noble, Jamie Dyke making up the top 35, Josh King, Timothy Schmalenberg in behind them, with Keegan Caldwell, yourself, Jack Oz, who ended your night early. Danny Davidson, unfortunately, never got back going again. But it was one hell of a round and one hell of a run for these drivers. Of course, we'll be back with live action for round number 2 on Wednesday night, now that we know that the old PC can handle it for the Super Formulas. We have got Marcus Knitska in the chat, so what we will do is we will get the B-roll going here of earlier in the race. We'll find one at least that has a car that was around him. Let's go for this one and we'll just pick Mr. Knitska, if it's going to let me. There we go. And then we'll drag him in for a quick chat here tonight for P3 on the road. Mr. Marcus Knitska, a good chunk of points for you on Wednesday night, sir. I do apologise that we were unable to do the live interview for that one. But a good chunk of points, P3 on the road. Unfortunately, Mr. Fahey held you up a little bit there and let Phil run away with it in the end.
Yeah, I don't know if it was holding me up. I just didn't have the pace to get past him. Had a shocking sprint race, and spun all by myself at the start, just after the safety car, and had to come from P20. So, yeah, super happy coming from P20 to finish P3 for sure.
Well, mate, I mean, how are you feeling now after round one? Tough track to start the season at. You get some good points on the board. Are you hoping this is now going to be a sign of things to come, and maybe you can pit Dave to a championship this season instead of him to you?
Yeah, there's a bit of internal rivalry happening there for sure. I'd definitely like to get one over him. Yeah, like just looking at the points, yeah, the sprint race definitely hurt me big time points wise. So just thinking of changing my mindset slightly and just trying to get in the top 5, both sprint race and feature. That'd be ideal. I think that's sort of the plan.
Mate, we love to hear when drivers are willing to have a change of mindset on track. Sometimes it can work out for a benefit for them. You had some great finishes last season, of course, a couple of wins to your name. I mean, we mentioned last season, at the end of the season, especially when Dave won the championship, that we came into it thinking Carlins and Velocity SimLabs were going to be the 2 main teams who we'll be focusing on, and all of a sudden Pace Syndicate were then a part of it. We then come into this season thinking Pace Syndicate's now going to be within the top 3 teams, and bloody Valve Esports and DFR are back in it as well. So there's just a heap of teams on offer for us, the heap of drivers who could possibly win this championship. Phil's made an early claim at this one, but it could go anyway this season, depending on how drivers go in terms of a bit of luck and a bit of skill involved.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a super competitive league, and I think we're all pretty. I don't think there's. I mean, like Phil looks like you said at the moment. I think he seems to be the standout on pace, but there's a good group of 6 to 8 drivers in that group that's up there that can win it on any day. So yeah, it's super fun, and it'll just depend on who's most switched on the day and who can get it done. So yeah, it's I'm super excited for the season, and yeah, I'm looking forward to a pretty competitive one.
How are you feeling about Spa next week? Obviously, quite a long track. We had a bit of spreading out of the field at Hungaroring. Do we think it's going to be a bit similar next week with Spa? Or do you reckon we might have a bit more chaos to condense the field back down with some safety cars?
Well, I feel like it was pretty quiet last Wednesday, so it's got to be more chaos than that, surely. But I just come off doing the 24-hour Spa on the weekend, so I feel like I've got a few laps under my belt there.
I reckon a lot of drivers probably have quite a bit of practice there, but they'll also probably put the moz on themselves for a couple of corners, namely Eau Rouge, Radion, and my personal demise in Blanchimont. But we'll see if it pays off and gives us some chaos on Wednesday night. Thanks for coming to chat to us, though, mate. Really, really do appreciate it. Jackos, do you have a question you want to ask Marcus before we let him go?
Yeah, just wondering what track you're looking forward to the most this season.
Actually, I think it was either the first two, here or a Spa. I think they're the 2 that I was most looking forward to.
Oh, well, it can only go downhill from next week then.
Exactly right.
Oh, Marcus, let us know who helps get you and Pace Syndicate out on track, mate. Anyone else you want to give a shout out to as well? And for myself and Jack and the rest of the league, congratulations on your P3 here tonight in the feature.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Look, just a big thanks to the boys at Pace Syndicate, Worm Paints for doing our paints. Carl does an awesome job there. So if you're looking for a paint for any car on iRacing, give them a look. And Jam Motorsport as well. If you want to go for a drive out at the bend, if you're in SA, check out Jam Motorsport.
Very good, mate. Well, best of luck for Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps this week. Going to be a hell of a challenge. Going to be hopefully quite chaotic, at least for my part, because then I get a bit more of a condensed field, a couple more safety cars, and an open end on who could win. We wish you all the best, mate, and hopefully you can try and bring some more Spa magic for yourself. Actually, how did you go on the 24-hour?
Well, I don't want to talk about that. We had a shocker.
All right, well, then let's make up for it on Wednesday night then, mate. Well, best of luck out on track. We hope to see you continue to succeed and put a challenge in for this championship.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks, guys. Appreciate all the work that you guys do, and also all the boys at SRW. Thanks.
No worries, mate. Thank you. Well, Jackos, an interesting race 2 compared to race 1 here tonight. Field started to spread out just a little bit towards the end there, but that is the nature of Hungaroring. It's a bit like Silverstone, where if you don't get carnage, the field starts to spread just a little bit. It's just the nature of the track at the end of the day. But Spa, Oh, that could be quite a hotly contested one, and one that, as I mentioned, could see a bit of carnage out there and maybe even a surprise winner.
Yeah, this track in many ways is a lot like Silvertone, so yeah, I'm excited for Spa. I've never driven anything other than a GT car, I don't think, or a hypercar, maybe. But yeah, I'm keen to tackle it. It's probably one of the most anticipated tracks on the calendar, so.
Well, it's going to be one big challenge for these drivers out there, of course. If you guys haven't already, be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe, and the bell icon as well, so you're notified anytime we go racing here on SRWtv. We've got a heap of action coming towards you this season, ladies and gentlemen. We also must apologise for, I know I mentioned it last night on the Supercars, but for the Friday night, unfortunately, the world decided to shut itself down and we could not go racing for Legends and GTDs. Round 1 for those series has now been pushed forward to this upcoming Friday, so they will be offset by 1 week compared to the rest of the season. A big thank you goes out to all of our series sponsors, including our title sponsors, Cooler Master, Warren Brown Tools, and Shannon's Insurance, as well as our other sponsors as well, Grim Industries, DSL Railway Services, NeuroPower, Shunt Scenery as well. We appreciate your time being with us once again, ladies and gentlemen. We so appreciate you joining us for all of our series on offer. We'll be back tomorrow night with the Warren Brown Tools V8 Supercars series here with myself and Sinker in the booth once again. But until next time, stay safe, drive hard. Thanks to Jack Oz for filling in for Cowie here with me tonight. Really appreciate it. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen. Very good. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen. Bye for now.
This is amazing. I was clash heads again. This is like Chaz Moscow and Cam Waters. Almost the same situation. Better contact going down the hill. Sam Noble wants to snip on Dave Coleman now. Sam Noble bottle right now because, tell you what, Bruce Tanak